Hello, 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 hello. Welcome back to the Brighter Podcast. My name is Batsheva.
And my name is Chelsea.
And my life is brighter thanks to Chelsea.
My life is definitely brighter thanks to Batsheva.
Today we come to you with part 2 from last week's episode. So it will stand alone. It's okay if you didn't hear last week. But last week's episode was, is the woo for you? Meaning all those woo-woo, new age, wonderful tools like astrology and readings. And what we didn't get to last week were tarot cards, which both Chelsea and I work with and love. And so we decided to do a part 2. And today's episode will be, is the woo for you, part 2. But before we get into the episode, we like to relax and become centered and kind of all meet together in this digital space. So let's do that by taking a nice soothing breath in through the nose, holding it for a little second or two, and then letting it out through the mouth, letting everything that's ready to go. Close your eyes if you're able to do so, breathing in through the nose, calming, quieting, soothing energy. Maybe holding it for a beat or two, then letting it out. Anything that's ready to go, let it go. Third, calming breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Let anything ready to go. Hello. Well, we're so glad that you've joined us today. Although I myself did stumble upon a couple of oracle decks in my journey with Tosha Silver, who is an author we've spoken about before. She's got some, not exactly tarot, they're just oracle card decks. I really want to give the floor to Chelsea here because I think you, Chelsea, you've been working with cards longer than me. Do you do tarot or do you only work with oracle cards? Actually, I wasn't clear.
I actually have both. I was introduced first to oracle cards. Someone that I know had I remember exactly the exact day. That was amazing. My girlfriend Alyssa and we met in California whenever I was on a travel nursing assignment. She and I instantly bonded, had an amazing relationship. We both loved to travel. And after I moved back to Missouri from California, I had flown out there for us to go on a weekend girls trip to Sedona. And so I flew out there and whenever we got to Sedona, we'd done all these hikes, which if you're not familiar with Sedona, it has all these spiritual vortexes or energetic vortexes, they say, where the energy is higher there. And so lots of people go to meditate there or just hiking there. It's really like a beautiful and amazing place. It was like I had learned from some locals after I've been back several times, and I had learned from some locals that actually the whole like Sedona area is where the original Native Americans and indigenous tribes, they would come there for their spiritual ceremonies and practices because of this higher energetic availability. And so we went there and we had went to this one hike, and I don't remember what it was called, but it looked like a giant spaceship. And as we were there, she's like, oh, I have these cards. Do you want to draw some? And I'm like, yeah. And it was like a goddess deck. And so I drew 3 cards, and one was my past, one was my present, and one was my future. And it was these 3 goddesses. And it was insane, the messages that came through. I mean, it was so in alignment with me and like what I felt that I was blown away. I couldn't believe it. So that was my first introduction to it. Then afterwards, I had been at another place and got in, like somebody else had a deck of cards, and these were animal cards. And so I loved that. It was kind of like your spirit animal. And I had just drawn one then. And so I ended up getting a deck of my own, which my very first deck was an oracle deck. It was an animals, the secret language of animals. And yeah, it has different animals on it and talks about like the qualities and traits and, where they're from. And then it has like what their message is to you. And so I really love that deck. It was my very first deck. And then like after that, I ended up going to California for another travel nursing assignment. And while I was there alone, really diving more into my spiritual practices and the connection with myself, I ended up finding this lovely little shop. And there I got like some prayer flags and candles and incense. And I came across my second deck, which is the Native Heart Healing Oracle. And this is all sacred mandalas. And so with the mandala, it is like sacred geometry. And on there, same thing. It's got like numbers and different things that are associated with it, the message. And then it usually has like an action, like you can do like a meditation with that card, or you place it, like there's chakra cards, and then you place it on the chakra and like visualize certain things. And it's really fun. And also while I was there, I had come across my next deck, which is also an oracle deck, and it is Kuan Yin. And for those of you who don't know Kuan Yin, she is the Bodhisattva of compassion. So she is thought to have been able to be an enlightened being, but she chose to stay on the earthly plane until all of the souls have reached enlightenment. They've all been awakened and saved. And so, yeah, it's a beautiful story. My husband and I had read her book. I think it was Becoming Kuan Yin. And I was like crying, as we were reading it. I loved it. So those are my oracle card decks, which I love. And for those of you that don't know, oracle doesn't have like a certain storyline. There's not any, it's just whoever wrote the oracle deck is how it works. And then there is the tarot. And the tarot has the major arcana and the minor arcana, and it follows a storyline. There's a hero, and he goes through all these things and like in order on his journey. And each suit plays along to different themes. And the minor arcana is thought to be like your daily life, like messages and experiences of your daily life, whereas the major arcana is thought to be your soul's journey and the lessons for your soul. And so the first tarot card deck that I was gifted was from my husband. It was for Valentine's Day, and it was this beautiful Grateful Dead tarot deck. And oh my gosh, it's amazing. The suits of it actually go along with the Grateful Dead, but they correspond to the same suits of a traditional tarot deck. And it's like the artwork is amazing. The book is beautiful. The messages are lovely. And then my dear friend Bryn gifted me this Radiant Wilds tarot. And it is magical. I love the artwork on it. I love everything about it. I love the messages. Instead of like saying reversed, it uses the term shadow and light, because in tarot, if you draw a card and it's upside down, you read a different message on there than what you would if it's facing up. So that's interesting. And then my last deck that I have is this Mermaid Tarot that I was actually my husband and I were just gifted this for our wedding by our dear friends, Sam and Brooke. And it also has it has the traditional tarot deck or suits and storyline as well. And it's really magical. And Brooke and I both love the ocean. And so it's really special. But all that being said, those are some beautiful decks, and happy to share those with you. If there's something that calls to you, like I recommend going with that. If you're at a store and you're like, oh my gosh, this one's beautiful, or I don't know, like I'm just drawn to this one, like that's your deck. It's speaking to you, use it. I usually use incense to kind of cleanse the deck before I use it. And then I've recently been exploring different card draws. So sometimes it can be as simple as asking one question. Sometimes it can be, like I said before, past, present, future. Sometimes it can be, aligned with the moon and the lunar cycle. and the astrology and what's available to us, and asking what energies can help me during this time, or what can I embody to help me release or receive. So yeah, I actually just got to I had drawn some cards at the beginning of March because for me, I believe that March is more of a start of the year than January, because in January, I'm still wanting to sleep and hibernate, and it's still cold and just being a lot slower. So the beginning of March, I had drawn some cards and it kind of laid out for the year. And actually, the astrological calendar starts at the March equinox, correct?
Well, I think in Kabbalistic calendar, we start even after that at the new moon of Aries, which is
Okay,
considered
great. So I
really
think
the
that's the
birth of the new
29th.
year. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I
and
think
every year
that's
it's a little
March
different.
29th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Okay,
almost
cool.
aligned. Yeah.
Perfect. So yeah, so depending on what calendar you're going by, and like the Chinese New Year is in February. So all are kind of a little different, but because I felt really drawn to March, and this beautiful mini moons planner that I had gotten has some activities to do with it that go along with the months and the cycles. And so I drew some cards then, and then it actually said, part of the other practices were to reflect on those after each eclipse. Last week on Thursday, we had our first eclipse, Virgo eclipse, this total lunar eclipse. And so, yeah, I was reflecting back on those cards that I had drawn at the beginning of March and kind of seeing what was speaking to me now and how to interpret it.
This episode, I'm not sure when it will air, but it's still really relevant because first of all, it's still spring and it is this beginning of this next year for all of us, or for those that it resonates with. And especially, I like, Chelsea, what you were saying, just to do what resonates for you. And for you, sharing that was the beginning of March was really beautiful. We're sort of coming out of the winter slumber, looking towards the new awakening of spring. And I love that journal that I think you shared with us during the journaling episode too, that moon journal. So
and yeah, that's the thing too. That's why I love tarot so much. I had never really understood what it was. I kind of thought it was like psychics or, people that just like flipped a card over and then they like told you like what they were getting, which I have not had a professional tarot reading. I had one time at a music festival and she gave me her interpretation and I loved that. But for me, I really find that reading the cards and acknowledging what my inner voice is saying or what is coming to my mind, that's just another way to connect with my own inner light, my own inner voice, my own inner divine, my higher self. Like, it's speaking and sometimes reaffirming or sometimes pointing out things that maybe I didn't necessarily want to hear, that weren't really easy or enjoyable, but I know that it's there. And it's just like, hello, here it is. Like, now you know, in case you were wondering, there you go. And so that's what I really love about it.
yeah, that actually completely reflects as well back to last week's episode where we talked about astrology readings and how they're helpful in as much as the person, first of all, who's giving you the reading, if it's not yourself, is a pure and clear channel for you, which is not always the case. So it's good to be a bit skeptical, open-hearted, but also to really, like Chelsea said, like really feel within, does this resonate or not? And allow yourself to be your best guru and be guided by your inner knowing and inner voice. Is this the right guidance for me? Always, for everything, but especially with the woo, I think that's the only way to make sure it doesn't guide you off course to begin sailing with a whole bunch of other pirates instead of continuing on the path where your soul's journey is meant to be guided and to guide you on in this lifetime. And I really appreciate like your explanation, Chelsea, because I didn't know that tarot was a story like that. And I have actually had professional readings done, but I didn't know what they were doing. So basically, when they're laying down the cards, they already know where those cards fall within that narrative, and that's how they figure out what it means. Or okay,
Yeah. There are, there's the hero, the mother, the father, the musician, or I mean, I guess maybe that's kind of with the Grateful Dead deck. I don't know that they necessarily go, but like every tarot deck has a tower. And the tower signifies such and such, which I have not studied it long enough to know those by heart. But people that do the readings, they know the storyline. Or that's my interpretation, that they should know the storyline. And then they kind of give it to you like, in a lot of the times they have multiple cards laid out, like maybe 6 cards. And so it kind of tells the story in accordance of what card is drawn where. And so they kind of like weave it together in their interpretation of the storyline and how the cards interact with one another.
Interesting. And I'm curious, well, so then oracle cards are almost unrelated to tarot, in other words. So oracle, it's more just like a sign. I mean, I don't do the I Ching. Have you ever done the I Ching? But people say that
I've
too.
I've only done it like twice, but I would love to learn more about it. But yeah, I've only done it a couple times.
Yeah, me too. I'm curious about it. And I think it's similar in that it's just for those times that we don't want to look to a guru or even a friend or relative or a therapist or anybody outside of ourselves for an answer or an insight. We do want to get that from ourselves, but we haven't yet received it from our internal knowing. And so the next step to be contained within our own inner knowing, but we need some sort of external channel for ourselves to receive the message other than another person, is to use something like the I Ching, or in my case and Chelsea's case, we might use an oracle card and a deck, to ask a question. And you might say it's just completely coincidence, and that's okay. It's really my choice in this lifetime to choose what becomes sacred to me. And what I choose is a reflection of myself, which you could argue is every single thing. And I think even there's like a scientific argument for that too, that everything is just really our own perspective and ourselves reflected back to us. And the cards are that for me. And if you embrace that, if you want to, and then you imbue the cards with that power, I think Chelsea will attest to this too. They deliver what you imbue them with. And so that is the woo that I've appreciated through these cards since I've had them. They've given me a lot of comfort and reassurance, is, I think. And like Chelsea said, sometimes I'll pull a card that I didn't expect and kind of takes me by surprise and maybe points out some sort of shadow situation going on with myself. And that too is very valuable because it allows me to reflect privately and also deeply on why that might have come up and what it means for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's, a lot of it is reflection, and reflecting. Just had this yesterday of experiencing something that was triggering, like somebody responding to a text in a certain way, and me analyzing like what that meant and kind of creating a story in my mind of what that meant. Like, well, whenever I respond to a text, if I respond like this means this, or like this is the tone of it. But it's so hard to tell, and everyone's different in how they're writing it, or maybe they're voice texting and saying period, and that it's putting a period or whatever. Everyone's got their own way. And so then it was really diving deeper into, what does this mean for me? Like, why is this coming up for me? And I think that it's the same with the cards, especially whenever you get one that isn't all rainbows and butterflies and like, oh yeah, you're this magical being and you're elevating in all these ways. And you're like, yes, I am, which is a great push sometimes and a great reassurance. Like you're saying, the comfort. It's like, okay, thank you, like someone else, and sometimes, or something that's not like your loved one, because you're like, okay, are you saying that to me because like you really believe that, or because you love me, or why? But you're like, oh, it's like, this is the divine speaking to me, or this is my own inner knowing, like, yes, I'm on the right path, believe it. But yeah, the shadow cards. I remember I had a friend once, he drew one and it was so spot on for what was going on in his life. And it was literally like a wake up call card. Like there was no sugarcoating anything. And we both kind of like looked at each other and just said, wow, that's something.
Interesting.
And
Well, maybe we should each take a minute to pull a card, or we can do one by one, maybe on something personal to ourselves, and then we can share with our audience and with each other.
oh, that sounds lovely. Are you going to, yours are Oracle card decks, right?
So I only have, you can do whatever you want. I have two options, which is the Divine Beloved deck, which is the name that Tosha Silver uses for God, Divine Beloved. And the other one is called Divine Abundance, also Tosha Silver infused deck, created and designed by Tosha. And she's somebody I really trust because her whole modus operandi is empowering people to trust the divine within and without and let the divine take the lead in your life versus any specific guru or our ego. So she really resonates with me, her teachings and her meditations and classes, and therefore the cards. So yeah, I'll take one of those decks. What about you? What are you going to choose?
I'm going to draw one from the Radiant Wild Atlas, the Inner Desert Dreamscapes. Seems fitting. I'm going to have a conversation later this afternoon, and I'm just asking for a little guidance on maybe how that conversation might go, or maybe a way to think about what's going to come up in the conversation, how to approach it, how to respond, how to be operating from my highest self and not taking things too personally or looking into them in a way that is not for the good of the situation.
Awesome. And so for anyone who hasn't actually worked with an Oracle card, anyone who's watching our YouTube now, you can see us. We're actually using the cards on camera. And if you're just listening, we're just taking the cards out of the box and we're going to just kind of shuffle them and move them around, infusing and imbuing our energy into the cards. Right, Chelsea?
Right. If I'm like doing a whole setup, then I'll use some incense and clean them. And then I usually shuffle 3 times. And then I kind of shuffle in my hand once. And then I spread them out. And then I hold my left hand up and blow on my hand to clear the energy off of my hand. And then I use my left hand because it's closest to the heart. And I just kind of go over top of the cards and with the middle finger, kind of feeling if there is a card that feels like maybe your finger is tingling or it gets warm or cold, or it might just like touch down on the card. And then that's the card that I pick.
Okay, what'd you get? Go for it.
I got reversed strength. So we'll see what that has to say. So that's the major arcana.
And my cards actually have the explanation written right on the card. So many of them come with a little booklet that you just read the explanation.
All of mine come with the booklet, yeah. Okay. A struggle with your external power originates from feeling out of tune with your inner strength. Feeling irritated in this way can lead to aggression. Whether it's directed towards yourself or others, it turns destructive. Channeling outer force while lacking inner composure is never the answer. Your internal strength, in its essence, exudes integrity and never ceases to exist. The task at hand is to pause and reconnect with this energy. In order to rebuild your personal power, lean into the things that light you up. Practice self-care to ultimately return to acting from a place of inner peace. You'd be surprised by its vigor.
Whoa.
And it's so funny because Batsheva, I literally told Batsheva the entire story right before we started this. And so it's just so funny. It says surrender, inner strength, alignment, and embracing obstacles.
It's about as spot on, I think, as any card could ever be. I'll just say that, having heard the whole story. Yeah, Chelsea was definitely in a position where she was getting triggered. Let's put it that way. So I think this card is going to help her. Amazing.
Perfect. And that's what I love it for. Because sometimes it just needs to give you a little insight, a little, hey, here's where you are. And it's a lot easier sometimes, I feel like, to take it from the deck than to sometimes hear it from someone else. Because you're just like, yeah, who are you? Like, whose side are you on? Like, the deck is indifferent. It's just objective.
Wow, that's deep. And I remember even feeling that towards the deck, but I mean, what can you do? Like, how dare you?
Ah,
But I've never done I love your whole ritual that you do, so I'm gonna try to blow my left hand. I usually just use my right, and I don't have such a cool, so I'm gonna see if there's anything that tingles. All right. Oh, and my question, it has to do with I'm using the Divine Abundance deck because I had a really big shock. We found out this past week that of our trio in Girl Band USA, the band I'm in, my one of the three has to leave the band, and it's really shaking up things at the moment. And I'm about to start working with a business coach, and I just really could use some clarity as far as like what I need to focus on as all these massive changes are occurring. All right, I think this one is calling my name. Let's see what I got. Interesting. Liberation. And the picture is a dragonfly. Those of you on YouTube can see, or on Facebook, actually. All right, and it's very small because it's not a booklet. It's like much shorter explanation. It says the doubts and fears still come up. You don't believe anymore that they're you. Okay, that's an amazing, amazing message. Not internalizing it just because I'm feeling doubts and fears. That doesn't define me. I can feel them and release them. That's beautiful. Love that. Awesome.
yay. Amazing. So another tool, we'll just touch briefly on it because it's definitely new to me as well, is the human design chart. You know, with astrology, we talked about the birth chart and that you put in your date of birth, time of birth, place of birth, and it gives you like where all the stars and planets and everything were whenever you were born. And the human design, it uses the I Ching, it uses the tree of life, it also uses some numerology, I believe, and the chakra system. And it is amazing as well. And I believe that you can go to myhumandesign.com and you can get your free chart and it will show like what is open. And then there are different places. I mean, there's a book and I know in the app, I think her name is Jenna Zoe. She has where you can pay and then you can go even deeper on each part of it, each part of your chart. And it will really go into explanation. It talks about like how to make decisions, how to know that you're headed in the right direction, or what happens whenever like your body or your being is telling you like, this isn't the way, like kind of what those signals are for you. Yeah, different things. So that's another tool. The I Ching, which we briefly talked about that we really don't have any experience with, is another thing. The Gene Keys is another source that I've dabbled into a little bit. I have the book. The gentleman's name is Richard Rudd. I know that, I think I said this last time, that her name is Blue of Earth. Her podcast is Deja Blue. She works a lot with Richard Rudd and the Gene Keys. And yeah, so there's all these different tools. And, like we said, it's just like ways to get to know yourself on a deeper level, or ways to communicate with yourself, to commune with yourself, to have these conversations and invitations to see what's there, whether it be on the lighter side or on the shadow side, and then to work with it.
Wonderful. Yes. And if you want to drop us a note or add in the comment section or on our Facebook what you love, what you engage with, and how it works for you, we really welcome these conversations. So don't be shy. And with that, we will segue into what we like to call the Daily W portion of the podcast, where we share a win, wow, and a wish. And today it's my turn to share a win and a wow. And I will say that my win for today is that I had super size me divine flowiness, because I woke up a little late. I was super tired and I was kind of late to get my son ready. And usually while he's eating his breakfast, I have a good 15-minute window, give or take, to do my morning 3 pages of journaling, which I mentioned in the journaling podcast that we've had episode 7 or so, or 8 or 9, who knows. Anyway, I was on my second page, getting into my third, when I realized I was not going to have time to finish. And this particular morning, I was really writing about some deeper stuff that was really feeling good to get it out. And I wrote in my journal, I'm not going to have time. I really wish I would have time right now to finish it because this is really helping me. And I'm not kidding you. Right after I wrote those words, my phone rang. I look and see the contact. It's the LAUSD school bus system. They call maybe once a month when the school bus is running late. And usually if it's running late, it's 10 minutes late. And so if that had been the case, I might have been like torn. Well, what does the message say? The robocall says his bus is running 20 minutes late. And I'm like, well, I'm meant to finish my journal entry. And that was like insane. And so I finished the journal entry, but then I knew I had to drive him to school instead of like have him be late to school. So I said, okay, I'm going to like sacrifice my 1 hour of Vipassana sitting meditation, because I have my podcast meeting with Chelsea at a certain time, but at least I got the journaling out. And so I take my son, we have a lovely drive, no problemo, come back. And I get home to a message from Chelsea saying, could we postpone the start time of our podcast recording? And I was like, wow. And long story short, I got the Vipassana in too, all in perfect divine timing. So that morning was a big win, number one. And wow, number one is that I'm really grateful that that same son, David, got, I think, almost 15 hours of sleep. He was so sleep deprived from the night before and from Saturday night, and that he'd conked out in the afternoon yesterday. And I was like fully ready for him to wake up in the middle of the night because I tried to wake him up from his nap and he would not budge. And I was like, oh, well, whatever. He's probably going to wake up in the middle of the night, watch TV for like, forever. And then it'll be what it is. But no, he slept through those 12 hours plus an additional few hours. And I had to wake him up. So the kid is like already like an inch and a half taller this morning. Like kids, they grow when they sleep. And I'm just like really grateful that he caught up on his sleep and that I was kind of like free in the night. He didn't try to wake me up or anything. So I was able to sleep well. So that's all my wow number one. Over to you, Chelsea.
Oh, I love it. I love whenever it works out like that. Whenever I know that I've had other meetings and other things where you think about it and you're like, oh, it could pan out this way, but then it's magic. So I'm happy for both of those things. My wish is going to be to do with the card drawing and with myself and with the conversation, and just that I am able to take the time and reflect and gift myself the gift of feeling the emotions and witnessing them and accepting them and acknowledging them, and also to let them go and to really show up and be the best version of myself during this meeting, and to drop all stories that are not in our highest good so that it can be a positive, constructive, growing conversation for both of us.
Love it. Amazing. Well, we thank you so much for joining us. This has been episode 19 of the Brighter Podcast, and we hope that each and every episode we offer helps your day be a bit brighter. And we would appreciate it if you subscribe, if you're not already subscribed. And if you share, let other people know that we're around. We would love to create a brighter community and make the world brighter.
And also, if you're able and willing, giving us a rating, as that will help us to grow on where they put us in the lineups. And we are all into organic growth and being available and seen by those who it can be beneficial to. So thank you so much. We love you, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.